Good evening, everyone. This is Srishti from QAI Global. Thank you for joining the STC 2019 webinar, A Peek into the Future of Mobile App Testing. This is the 19th edition of the Software Testing Conference organized by QAI, and it's built on the theme of architecting continuous quality, think, transform, and thrive in an intelligent future. The conference is scheduled in Bangalore on 5th and 6th December. So today we are happy to have Mr. Nilesh Tarale, VP Pre-Sales pCloudy. He is heading the pre-sales at pCloudy and with around 16 years of experience in the product development and testing. He has worked primarily in the mobile application testing and mobile device testing domain with companies like Motorola, Nokia, and Accenture. So today we'll be discussing about the following: mobile app testing market, challenges faced by the enterprises, changing app testing techniques, adapting to those changing app testing techniques, next-gen features going to disrupt app testing. So now I request Mr. Nilesh to take the webinar forward.
Thanks, Srishti, for a quick brief introduction and setting the right context for the webinar. I would like to welcome all the participants once again. Very good afternoon. Let's start. So soon we are approaching December, isn't it? But it just seems like yesterday was January. What happened to the rest of the months from last Jan to December? Yes, the time is flying by and the business and technologies are shaping at the same pace. The breathtaking pace of change over the last few years requires new and innovative ways of doing things. And mobile application testing is no exception to it. The ubiquity of mobile phones, the incorporation of agility into software development processes, the pervasiveness of cloud environments have pushed quality and performance expectations to the forefront, right? And testing is being seriously challenged so far. So today we will talk about the future of app testing and how we are going to keep up with the racing pace in this particular webinar. So before we start the actual webinar, before we start looking into the futuristic way of looking at the testing, we will quickly have a brief glimpse about journey at pCloudy. So how do we grow? So with a short period of three and a half years of time, we have successfully acquired 95,000 plus users across the globe. We have users from across 65 plus countries with us. We have 700 plus customers with us. When I say 700 plus customers, these are the customers who are actually, paying us or buying our subscription month-on-month basis. We have 20 plus Fortune 500 companies as a part of our kitty, and the numbers are growing. We are proud to say that we are also got covered by Gartner and Forrester's, the industry analyst, the leading industry analyst, rather, I'll say. So we are proud in saying that. At the same time, if you see the logos which we have at the bottom, these are all the companies who are trusted pCloudy. They are using pCloudy for their mobile application testing, or to cope up with the speed, to cope up with the market. And this list of these customers are growing day by day, right? Now, moving to the next slide. 5 years ago, the modern smartphones that we know now and love today had just surpassed non-smartphones in sales. If you look at the data, it was estimated then that this adoption would drive 102 billion app stores downloads, yeah, and the global app revenue for around $26 billion. But in 2017, the total global numbers of mobile app downloads surpassed 197 billion, right? We had, the initial number was 102, the prediction, but it has actually gone to 197 billion. And the worldwide revenue from App Store reaching to $110 billion, right? Today, we have over 5 million Android and iOS apps in the market, as mentioned on the slide. And consumers have become so aware that consumer experience has become the core of the application testing, right? It's not limited to the normal application testing. You just develop any application and start doing testing. The consumer experience is of prime importance, and the entire market is governed by the consumer experience as such, if you really look at it. So let's have a look at the application testing market, right? We have just seen the quantum of apps in the market. Each and every organization, each and every company today is either entering into the mobility or completely moved to the mobility. They were, digitalization is something which is what the mantra today. So with this growing usage of mobile devices and apps has given a demand for the mobile application testing. So the roof and these data points, whatever we have seeing here, these are the proofs for that. Let's talk what data I'm talking about. If you see the total testing market for the mobility alone or mobile application alone is around $60 billion, right? The total number of applications which we have seen in the last slide has gone to approximately 5 billion numbers, right? In numbers for the both Android and iOS. And if you see, really look at it, the growth which is predicted in 2025 is 19.88%. So the way application testing market is growing and the amount of applications are growing in the market is enormous, right? And that's what we have to cope up as a testing team, as a quality team. We have to see how can we cope up and do something which will reduce the time to market, which will bring a lot of agility, which will bring a lot of futuristic testing, right? Now let's move on to the next slide. Though this particular data is talking about, yeah, the market is really big, we have enough applications in the market, it is growing with high pace, but as it said, there are with the technological advancement comes a lot of challenges and complexities. If you really look at today's market, or if you really look at the applications which we are testing or using or getting developed, and enterprises face a lot of challenges while testing their apps, right? Let's see some of them. Some of the challenges are listed here, which are quite widely talked about. Device diversity, now which increases the testing efforts exponentially. If you really look at it, the plethora of devices which we have, the landscape, if you really look at it for Android, is huge, and slowly iOS is also picking, right? Earlier we had just one iOS device or two iOS devices enough, but now even iOS devices landscape is increasing and following the Android. So the device diversity is a prime challenge because it increases the testing efforts literally exponentially. Continuous new launches of new OS versions, right? The fraction, the metrics is getting complicated day by day with the new launches of the devices with the new OS versions. Mobile automation has many limitations, right? Tools can't handle various cases related to gestures and cases dependent on device hardware, such as maybe audio, the camera, accelerometer, gyrometers, etc. But there are other challenges which makes testing of mobile application extremely challenging. Okay, extremely challenging. The network performance. Phone networks are really unpredictable and exhibit wide variations in bandwidth and latency, right? So users in different locations accessing different operators can experience vastly different application performance. So if you're using the application, if you are just testing that application in your lab with the Wi-Fi, you may see the application is working absolutely fine. But when the same application is used by the users or by the testers in the field with different networks, you will see the behavior is changed. Yeah, with the same operator, when the when somebody is moving around with the application and the device, the application behavior may change because there might be a packet drops, there might be a network latency, there might be a whole lot of things, right? So the entire network performance, the network throttling things comes into picture. So that's one of the things which we are seeing as a challenge. Now, testing on various contexts. uh, my users are going to use the app when they travel, or by agents who are in field with sweaty hands, right? So this with these two things, if you really look at it, the testing as such, the context of your testing changes drastically. So you'll have to use that also in mind when you're looking at the mobile application testing. Now, testing the user opinions. Now, user reviews plays a large part in determining whether the number of downloads for any apps in the stores. Understanding the user reactions to an app before you push the app to App Store is extremely important in today's era. That was not the case a few years back, but today it's so important that you first get to know what are the user reactions, what feedback your user is supposed to give you if you just release the application to the market. So if you get that beforehand, that's something which will help you to expedite and increase the downloads for your application in the stores. Add-on devices, right? Now, when I'm talking about add-on devices, it's typically about the IoT apps. Now, most of the IoT apps works closely in sync with the other add-on devices, right? It increases the integration test complexity, obviously, because there are two different devices now which will be communicating with your application. I mean, the mobile itself and the IoT device. So these challenges are pretty common with most of the enterprises, but pCloudy brings an end to all your problems. I'm sure that you, if not all, some of these challenges are facing in your organizations too. So pCloudy will bring an end to all your problems. Since our aim is to make your app testing seamless, even after keeping pace with the racing technology, we are disrupting the QA industry with its next-gen application testing tools. You have already transformed yourself digitally. I'm sure most of you. But how do you take a leap further? Yeah, we will help you to take that leap, right? And let's see how we can do that. So when we are talking about taking a leap in the future, the first leap which we are talking about is device infrastructure. So if you really look at it from the mobile application testing perspective, the most important part here is the device diversity, which we have spoken a while ago in the last slide. So when you are testing your application, what is that primarily you are looking for is the devices, the variety of devices, the plethora of devices with different hardware, software configurations, and associated features, maybe to capture a screenshot, to get the logs properly, quickly, and stuff like that. So the infrastructure, if we just summarize this and club it together, it can be attributed to the infrastructure, right? So the device infrastructure is something which is what is the prime importance as of today. If you try to invest, if you try to look for the device infrastructure within your organization, it may be very difficult and costly affair. But pCloudy will provide you the right devices infrastructure at a single click. You can just come here, select any device of your choice at pCloudy and just connect to that device. Once you connect to the device, you can start interacting with the device. You can start doing the application testing of your choice on this device. And it's not only the manual testing, typically the way you do today with the device in hand, you can get a whole lot of things. Maybe you get the application performance test, you get the log and crash report if your application is crashing, you get the network simulation test. See, network simulation, the variety of network which we have spoken a little while ago, you can actually use with pCloudy. We have capability to throttle the network capabilities to create different kind of network situations as if you're doing or getting it into the market. So all these things you get it with a single click at pCloudy. The entire device infrastructure with associated features which will bring a lot of value adds to your existing testing. Now, when you are doing a manual testing, getting a device, testing it on one device, and then moving on to the next device, because certainly you have to do the testing on multiple devices at a time, right? You cannot just finish the application testing on one single device and say my testing is done. You have a whole lot of devices in your kitty to be tested, your application with. So let's take a hypothetical example. Let's say that you have given a task to finish the testing on 10 different devices, 10 different hardware software configuration of the mobile devices for Android, for example, right? And each device, the amount of test cases which we have, which needs to be manually tested, will take 1 hour to finish. Now, in reality, when you start doing the testing, and when you will be finishing it on 10 different devices, you will end up spending 10 hours of your testing efforts, right? Now, what if suppose you get speed with the scale of your testing, right? While doing manual testing. So we have at pCloudy, you can get this. We have, you can select 2 devices at a time. As you are seeing on the slide, we have something called master and secondary, right? And then you install your application on this, sorry, you install your application on this particular device and then start testing. Now, whatever you're doing on this device will automatically get replicated on this device. The secondary device will start following the primary device or the master device. So whatsoever you are doing on this device or this application, all those actions will start performing on this particular device. If you really look at it, what it will do, what you are going to achieve, you are going to achieve savings in your testing efforts, savings in your testing time, right? Uh, if you're doing 5 times on 5 different set of devices, you will be covering 10 devices automatically with just 5 hours. So basically, you are going to save 50% of your testing efforts and time when you are actually testing your application using this feature at pCloudy. All right. So manual testing, we are not stopping ourselves with manual testing. Of course, manual testing is something which is still done in the industry and it has to be done. But at the same time, the whole industry is moving towards automation because that's what people are saying, thinking. And of course, there are a lot of advantages of automation because the repetitive test cases you can automate and then spend quality time doing manual testing for ad hoc testing and stuff like that. So when it comes to automation, and automation also has to be tested on multiple devices. So when you do this setup within your organization on your local environment, you may end up running the same test on multiple devices in a series in a serial way. I mean, if you have to do it on 10 devices, you will be actually running it on 1 or 2 devices at a time. Then once that gets over, you will be running on the other devices, or you'll have to have 5 or 8 different test machines where these devices are connected, and then you have to run the test. So that's something which is the practical problem which we are seeing in the industry. But what if suppose you get the automation at a scale at pCloudy? You want to see how it looks. So we have, I've just captured a demonstration here, and you can see now we are actually running a short automation test case here. And if you really look at it, the amount of devices we have chosen here are 50 devices. We have selected 50 different devices, and you can see on 50 devices, the automation is happening in parallel. So it is triggered from a single machine. You don't need to have multiple 50 or 10 or 5 different test machines. No, you can just run from a single machine. You have your test assets, you have your test data, everything ready on a single machine. You just trigger it on pCloudy and run it on multiple devices at a scale. Okay, this is eventually going to save save a lot of time, and the time to market for your application will be reduced drastically. Moving to the next slide, which is about DevOps. Now, when we are talking about DevOps, I mean, in today's agility world, we have to use DevOps. I mean, that's one of the integral part of the application life, the application's life cycle. So pCloudy is pretty much supported with DevOps. Yeah, like as you're seeing here, the Jenkins, we do have support for Jenkins, we do have support for Bamboo, and we can also make it work for rest of the other CI tools if needed. It's pCloudy is absolutely API based platform. So what you can do is you can actually create very simple and realistic way. You can actually create a job in your Jenkins setup, and you can call the test cases to be executed on pCloudy. Once you trigger it from your Jenkins, it will start executing it on pCloudy, and you can actually monitor it from here when you are seeing the configuration part on the console. You can also get the test report results and everything pretty much on the same page here. So yes, pCloudy is also supported in DevOps, and you can actually, a lot of customers as of today are using Jenkins with pCloudy. Okay, so let's see what is the future trends we are seeing. I mean, so far in 2019 by DZone, they have listed some lot of future trends, right? So we have picked up the top 7 trends which we were seeing so far, and you can also witness that. So these are written here in a specific way here. First and foremost is artificial intelligence and machine learning. If you see, a lot of applications, mobile applications, started using the artificial intelligence algorithms. They have started using the machine learning capabilities and started bringing the intelligence to their mobile applications. The wearable and IoT. This IoT is something which is catching up in the market. There are a lot of wearables coming into the market, and this is going to change. This is keep on happening. This is keep on coming, and this is going to change the way we do the testing with the mobile applications. Bots. There are so many applications who are using the integrated bots with their application, who are actually interacting with the users, who are giving, they have their own intelligence there. So how are you going to test such application which has bots? Predictive analysis. Now, predictive analysis is a very important aspect in this trends. Apart from that, yes, augmented and virtual reality, the 5G network, which will bring in a lot of new angles to the application testing, instant apps. So these are some of the future trends which we are seeing in the market, and we started seeing these trends from early 2019, right? I'm sure you all will also, be with me on this part. So now, when we are actually seeing this artificial intelligence and machine learning, wearables and IoT, bots, predictive analysis, and so on, do you really think that there is a platform, or you have the capacity to do everything, or do such kind of testing on the remote devices or the devices which you have in your possession? No, everything cannot be done together. But at pCloudy, we have certainly gone a step ahead. We have started using this, and we are also using intelligent bots, wearables and IoTs. We are providing the support, and that's what we are going to see in the future trends slides coming here. So as you have seen some of the slides before, where we have shown you the couple of screenshots where you have seen how you can acquire a device, how you can actually do the testing, what all things you can do with that, the automation stuff and like that. So these are something which most of the competitors or most of the platforms available in the market will provide you. What we have done, we have gone a step where we started, we tried to bring the smartness by adding certain brains to the tools which we are providing it to our customers. Right? We are going to see those some of the key things which we have here, right? Now, IoT. How are you going to test your applications which is typically required, the wearables or IoT, right? So either you will have to have it both the things in possession with you in one of the location. But what if suppose you have a co-located teams, you have a geographically separated teams? How are you going to do that? You cannot keep replicating the same setup there. So you can actually use pCloudy. This is one of the example where we have shown, the smartwatch, which is IoT smartwatch available on the cloud, and then you are actually testing it on any device. So this is a Samsung device, and this is, I believe, a Fossil watch. So you can see this. We can change the time, we can change the dials, we can do the entire settings from here. And the way typically the application is written to interact with the watch can be done with this particular platform. So this is one of the examples which we have for the IoT. Similarly, we have not restricted ourselves only to the IoT, the smartwatches. If you see this particular slide where we have shown some infotainment systems, right? So such kind of custom devices can also be brought on the pCloudy cloud. We can actually bring those on the pCloudy cloud, make it available to the clients, and they can use these devices to be tested remotely by the team members which are spread across the globe. Right? So this way you can actually bring in any smart device available on the cloud and do the testing. Okay. This is what I was referring to, the AI-powered bots, or the personal assistants, what we call to all the users who are using pCloudy. So we have software bots, which is basically backed with the artificial intelligence and the machine learning capabilities, which we are also using in the backend, right? What does it do, and how it is going to affect or help the users and their testing part, right? So it's so simple to use. You just need to click on this particular button here to select the application of your choice which you want to test, and provide certain data which is mentioned here: application credentials and test data. So if you provide this data, typically whatever the way when you are testing your application with the device in hand, or when you are writing manual automation test cases, you are providing certain test data. You know that this is what I'm going to perform, and these are the data I have to enter into the application. So if you are aware of those data, you have to provide that data here, right? And then you just need to sit relax. You don't have to write any single line of code, the automation code for that matter, in order to use this feature. Everything will be done automatically by our software bots, which is, as I mentioned, which is backed with the artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. What it will do basically will take your application, it will install it on multiple devices and do the testing on its own, as if a manual test engineer is doing a testing on your application, right? It has an intelligence to understand how many screens your application has, how many logical workflows your application has, and it will perform the testing as if a manual test engineer does the testing, right? As and when it encounters any field where some data has to be inputted, right, it will actually come, the bot will come to this particular part, right, and it will look for the label name, right, as mentioned here, username. For example, your application needs certain username somewhere, so the moment the bot hits username, it will just come here, pick up the data from here, and it will enter into the username field in your applications and move further, right? In case you are not providing any data here, in case you are not providing any username here, bot will still understand that there is a field where I have to enter certain data. It will understand what kind of data is being accepted by the application. Is it a number? Is it a string? Is it an alphanumeric number? But bot will not understand the correct data which needs to be given to the application, because that smartness, that intelligence will be there only with the manual test engineers who are aware about the complete functional requirements, right? But of course, the bots, we are not feeding that much information, so bot will not know. So bot will try to put in something there, depending upon the type of data which you're looking for, but it will be random data, right? Or random data. So that random data may not be useful for your application. So if you provide the right data set here, it will actually do the testing on your applications on multiple devices. What are you going to achieve when this particular thing happens, when these bots are doing the testing on your application? It will actually provide you the quick sanity of your application, how your application, whether there are any failures, there are any obvious failures, there are any crashes, that kind of information you're going to get it with the software bots which we have. In addition to that, we are also providing you the health check of your application. When I say health check of your application, it means you can get to see how are you performing in the market with respect to the performance parameters like CPU, memory, battery, and the network data. If you really look at it, we do not have any industry standard, any market standard in the mobility market which says your application should consume X amount of CPU, memory, battery, or network data, right? So pCloudy has taken a privilege to even come into the market, take a lead, and start creating the benchmarking, start creating a standard rather for such kind of applications. I mean, for the mobility applications. So what we have done, we have tested a lot of applications available in the market from different categories, from different domains, and then we gathered the data for CPU, memory, battery, and network. And then we have created a benchmark for each category and a standard generic benchmark. Now, once your application is tested by the software bots which we have, we will also capture the CPU, memory, battery, and network data for throughout the testing, and then we will compare that with the benchmarking which we have done. And depending on that, we are going to give you certain ratings, like on a scale of 1 to 10. Like in this case, you can see 5.0, 3.1, 5.6, 1.5. So pretty much ranging from 1 to 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is being the worst performance, and 10 is being the best performance, right? So you can see here the CPU and battery is pretty much average, memory is a little below average, and network is absolutely bad. It shows in red color. So you're going to get such kind of results very quickly. If you really look at it, the total duration is 27 minutes and 18 seconds. It has done on 10 different devices. So just you can imagine within half an hour's time or 45 minutes time, you get such kind of beautiful reports on 10 different devices. And you can also, I mean, this is a very big report. You can actually go into this report, you get the application information and so on. So all this information is at your fingertips if you're using this particular feature at pCloudy. Okay, now coming to the most interesting part. We are doing the testing on multiple devices. The testing process or the test strategies which we are making, the test plans we are making, will always tell you that we have to do the testing on. I mean, these are the type of tests which we'll have to perform, and these are the set of devices on which we should be doing the testing, right? Now, is that enough? I mean, are you sure that if you're going to test in a specific way on a specific set of devices, you are going to find most of the defects or bugs on that particular devices? I mean, if you have 10 or 15 devices with you, or you have a liberty to choose and do the testing on 10 or 15 devices, which devices you are going to choose? So you will just try to see, okay, fine, I'm a big fan of Samsung, maybe I'll start with Samsung first, or with LG. Or if only Nokia phones are available right now, so I'll start with the Nokia, and then I'll start doing my testing completely. Once it is done, then I'll move on with the next device. So eventually, if you really look at it, your testing time is increasing, because anyways you have to test it on multiple devices. So unless complete testing is done, you're not going to leave that job just like that. And the whole intention here is to find the defects or issues or bugs, right? What if suppose you get some predictions for your application when you start testing your application on a specific device, or any device for that matter, and once you do one complete round of testing, what if suppose somebody gives you some tips saying, you know what, if you test this on a specific device, there are high chances that you find certain defects. Will it excite you? Will you get excited by getting such kind of information? I'm sure I'm pretty much excited, because of course I'm going to save a whole lot of time, and I'm actually coming up with a lot of issues, the real issues in a application. And that's what we are providing here when we say predictive analysis, or predicting some things to save your efforts. So we have something called predictive engine, which will actually improve the accuracy at the scale for your application testing. So when you start testing your application on any of these, any of the pCloudy device, right? And when you start doing your application testing, when you are actually on a when you start the predictive engines, you will start seeing certain predictions here, and this bot will start giving you certain predictions. So for example, if you can read from your screen, the first one talks about device compatibility issue, right? So the application is written in such a way that this particular application, the VLC which is using, is going to fail on Amazon and Asus devices, because this particular decoder which the application is using, the OMX, is not supported by these two devices. So if I do this testing on Google Pixel, for example, and if I get this prediction, I am 101% sure, or rather, let it be very practical, I am now convinced, or rather, I am ready to take a chance to test it on Amazon and Asus, because I know that we are using OMX decoder and this is not supported by this. So if I test it on that, I can definitely log a bug. I can find a defect immediately, right? So this kind of predictions, you are going to get it. Like device compatibility issues, again, you might see a possible failure on Samsung and LG devices, because split window mode is not supported by that particular devices, that particular OEMs, whereas you are using the split window features in your application. Same way, the compatibility issues, you may get a possible failure on version 8.0 because the language change is not supported in that particular OS version. So this kind of predictions, this kind of suggestions, you're going to get it, which will redirect you and direct you in a right direction to do the testing to get maximum benefit of your testing. This is what I was referring to when we were talking about the predictive analysis, the predictive engines, which is typically being used nowadays by most of the mobile applications also. Okay. Now, what happens to the audio interaction testing? See, if you are using the device in hand, the physical devices, of course, you can pretty much do the audio testing for both audio in and audio out. But when you are referring to a remote device cloud platform, in test platform, it's really difficult to do that particular testing. And we have solved that problem. We are actually enable the voice for both audio in and audio out, and we are going to see that in a moment here. So it's a short video which will explain how you can perform the audio in audio out testing on the pCloudy devices. So let's see the first scenario about the audio out here. Now when we are talking about audio out, of course you'll have to log into pCloudy, which we have done it here, and then you can go to the devices tab to go to the list of devices which we have, and then you just click on the audio part. If you see on the top bottom right side, we have a tab for audio. Basically it's a quick shot, and when you click on that, you will get all the devices which is supported by audio. Then you just need to click on available button there and connect to the device. Once you acquire a device, this is how you're going to see it. Now you go to the bottom left side here and click on that more button, which will enable more, which will bring in a lot of other features. The first one is audio out, which we are clicking it there. When we click audio out, So whatever is being played on the device, you can see actually you get a success message if the moment the audio output is configured with this particular device. So now if you play anything on this device, be it audio alone or a video, you're going to get that video output on audio output on your local machine. So now if I'm using this device from my local machine, I will start hearing out the audio which is being played on the device on my laptop.
For future use, select the date and time for which you want to hook your device in.
I hope you are able to listen to the audio for the video which is being played for pCloudy.
Device and the device is booked for future use. Booking cancellation is also possible from this page.
Okay, now let's move on to the next part, which is basically the audio in.
Get the privilege to expand your test coverage using the device.
So same way, you have to just click on the audio in here. It might give you one pop-up which says, allow the microphone of your laptop or the desktop to be used by this particular platform.
Hi Google. Mobile app testing tool.
Yeah, so likewise, when you give an audio command from your local machine, it will be actually picked up by the device directly from your machine, and then it will perform the actions on that. So if you have any application which is basically an audio interactive application which takes audio input as one of the command and perform certain things, you can actually use pCloudy to do the testing on those applications using this platform. All right, so we have covered pretty much what futuristic testing we have on our platform, but when it comes to the uh, couple of more futuristic features which we are actually seeing in the industry, which we do not have right now, a lot of competitors do not have. Of course, we do have that in our roadmap, which typically talks about the AR, VR apps and 5G network, right? So augmented reality and virtual reality technologies are amongst the top technologies that businesses are looking forward. Now, testing AR and VR apps are the upcoming challenges which everybody thinks about that. And of course, we also think that it's going to be a big challenge. But we are ready to take up those. We already started working on that part. Another step we are taking is towards 5G. As we said, as we all know that 5G is something which is typically going to be a big thing in the market very soon. So we are working on the 5G part as well to make it available very soon on pCloudy, and cope up with the 5G technology so that any applications when you want to test with the 5G, we should be providing you the right support there, because it is definitely going to improve the performance aspect in terms of CI/CD pipeline, downloading the content from source repo for GitHub for your build, publishing the builds to test devices on pCloudy, or execution time of tests, with the improved response time of microservices. So pretty much is going to change with the help of 5G. So we have of course started working on that as well. Now, the last slide here, which talks about the certification. So of course, I don't want to talk more about this slide here, but we do have pCloudy Learning Academy, which have certain courses, certifications for the manual application testing and basic and advanced APM automation testing. So if you would like to call yourself as pCloudy professional, certified pCloudy professionals, you can actually come to pCloudy, do the certifications there, of course. But before I move on to the next slide for the question and answer to clear all your doubts, I would just like to say at the end of this, I would just like to say that we are prepared for the ever-changing future trends in the mobile application testing, and together we all can do wonders. So yeah, thank you so much. We will be moving to the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, we'll take up those questions and try to answer those questions here. All right, so I'm just trying to see the questions here. Give me a moment. Okay, so we have a question from Balram. He's asking, is security bug testing available in pCloudy platform? Security bug testing is, as such, you can do it. I mean, this is basically a real physical devices access which we are providing it to you. So if you are having your security test cases with you and or test suits with you, you can actually perform those on pCloudy. But if you're asking from the security testing as such, then we don't have anything pre-configured or pre-built with pCloudy platform as such. So but if you have any test cases or test suits ready with you, pretty much you can perform those on pCloudy. There's one more question by Sandeep, who's asking, what is the best automation compatible with pCloudy? Well, we have most of the open source test frameworks integrated with pCloudy, including Monkey Test, Espresso, Calabash, and APM. But to answer your question specifically, we recommend APM because that's what the whole industry is using it. So most of our customers are using APM. So the APM integration, the way we have done, the way we are fixing all the possible defects, it has come up very well. So most compatible automation framework, I will say APM right now with pCloudy. But of course, you can use Espresso, you can use Calabash as well. I hope I have answered your question, Sandeep. Okay. Okay, there is a question from Sandeep again. But APM somewhat has issues with latest iOS and Android versions. See, you'll have to understand, as I mentioned in the beginning, pCloudy is providing you the right infrastructure, right? We are not developing any test framework as such, right? Because if we create our own custom framework and provide it to you, a lot of customers will not like it, because nobody today wants to get tied up with a specific proprietary platform. Everybody wants to use open source framework so that they can change whenever they want. They don't want any dependency on a specific vendor or framework. So that's the reason we are actually supporting the open source frameworks. We have not created our own. Of course, we do have one which is basically Automation Studio, which will help you to create the test cases just by recording your workflow and then execute it on multiple devices. But that's a different story here. When we are talking about, so if there are certain issues with the APM, that will remain here on pCloudy as well, because we are not creating any test framework. We are just giving the support for the open source framework. But there are certain workarounds, there are certain fixes. We do have the one of the best automation test engineering team with us in case you are using pCloudy, and if you have any such problems, you can always get in touch with us and we'll try to help you. Okay. There's one more question by Ashok. Does it mean I can add any IoT device to pCloudy? Okay, Ashok. So in the examples there, we have shown you one infotainment system, right? And of course the IoT wristwatch. So we can technically add any IoT device as long as it works on Linux or Android or iOS. Okay, we can add those to pCloudy devices. But certainly when you are talking from the public cloud perspective, we cannot add for one specific user, because it will be available to the entire customer base. So if you're opting for the another offerings which we have, maybe private cloud or on-premise cloud, that's where we can actually integrate the custom hardwares or the custom IoT devices and make it available on the cloud. Of course, there will be the integration efforts. There will be certain technical challenges for which we will need help from the customers as well. But this is pretty much possible, and we have proved in the past. There are a couple of companies who are using their custom hardwares on the cloud, and they have saved a huge amount of money on that. I hope I have answered your question, Ashok. Okay, there's a question from Shivani about the software bots, how it will know the application flow, and will it give me the failure test cases? Okay, so as I mentioned, the software bots are backed with the artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. So we have written certain algorithms. We have brought in a lot of intelligence to that bots. Now that bot has a capability to go through your application, read your application completely, get the entire metadata out of your application, and understand what your application is doing. Right? It will get the information like which are all activities your applications are using, which are all packages which your application is using, what are all permissions your application is asking. So whole lot of things we will read, or the bot will read first, and then it will determine how many total screens your application has. That's the first basic information we get. Then we will the algorithm is a very big complex algorithm which will get inside this, and then we'll try to understand what all logical workflows your application can have. I mean, if there are 4 different sections in the list view, let's say you are talking about booking a flight, for example, and then booking a cab and booking a hotel. So you know that there are 3 different categories. So it will understand that there are minimum 3 workflows, logical workflows from this particular screen. And when it goes into let's say booking a cab, then it will again identify how many such further flows can be done. So it will actually create a complex matrix which will understand what are the logical flows, and then it will start doing the testing as if a manual test engineer does the testing on your application. Right now, this is something the bot will keep on doing, and then it will start doing the testing, and we'll start looking for the issues. Now, if you really look at it, I mean, this the second part of your question is, will it give me the failure of test cases? I'm answering the second part now, wherein you said, see, we are not providing any information to the bot. Let's say I'm just taking another example. If there is some application which is getting developed at pCloudy, for example, a mobile application, I am the test engineer for that. I have gone through the entire requirement specifications, and I have understood the requirements. I have understood the application. I have understood the designing, and then I started doing the testing for that. Right? So I understand, as a manual test engineer, I understand the application in and out, and then I'm testing, and that's when I'll be able to take a call whether the test case is pass or fail. Now, if I give you this application and ask Shivani, can you do the testing on this particular application, and I'm not providing you any information about how the application should work or the functional requirements, and now if I ask you to give me the failures, it's very difficult for you also as a human to understand if there are any failures, because you don't know if something is happening in a particular way, whether that is an issue or that is as per the expected behavior, as per the requirement or the functional document, right? So same way, the bots will not understand whether there is a failure, right? Because bot, we are not providing that information to the bot. We are not training the bot. We are not providing the functional requirements to the bot. So bot will just try to follow the specific workflow, which bot thinks that this is a logical workflow, and while doing so, it will capture the screenshot. Because it doesn't know whether the application is passed or failed, or that particular use case is passed or failed, so it will capture the screenshots after every certain intervals or after every steps, and it will provide it to you. So now you, as a manual test engineer who understand the application much better, who understand the entire functional, who has gone through the functional requirements, will have to just go through the application screenshots to understand, if there are any obvious failures or obvious issues. So this is what we are going to get to see when you are actually using these bots. So bots will not let you know if there are any obvious failures of the use cases, because it doesn't have any information for that, but it will provide you these screenshots, and along with this it will also provide you the logs. So in case while doing this functional testing, if there are any crashes, that notification will be given to you. That information you can get it from the test reports. I hope, I know it was a little lengthy answer, but I think I tried to cover both part of your questions. Hope you're clear with that. All right, I think we are approaching towards the end of the webinar, so I'll just take a last one question, and then we will conclude the webinar. So the last simplest question I'll try to take, because we don't have much more time. The question is by Rupesh. How many IoT watches are available on pCloudy cloud, and can I use it? So Rupesh, yeah, I mean, typically if you really look at it, you will find most of the mobile devices for Android and iOS in pCloudy. We do not have the watches readily available on the cloud. It will be available on the cloud as and when it is needed by the specific clients, because keeping the IoT watches, because that's what we have support right today, is a little challenging to keep it just like that, because of a couple of things. The power management, because these watches do not have a separate or inbuilt USB cables to charge. These watches which we have is wirelessly charged, so we'll have to keep on charging. And then there are certain limitations. So if the watch is not being used for some time, it will automatically switch off the Wi-Fi, and since it doesn't have the USB ports or something, we will have to communicate with the Wi-Fi. So there are certain challenges, but yes, in case you want to use it, you can pretty much use it. You'll have to just let the support know that you want to use watches, and we can make it available. But it makes perfect sense if you are having your own. I mean, we made a lot of watches available to some of the customers who are actually using it thoroughly though. So those guys have provided the watches, and we made it available to them. So if you are having any specific IoT device and you want to use that, we can actually keep it in our data center for you. Well, I hope I have answered the questions, and I'm expecting that the webinar was useful to all the participants here. If you guys have any further questions, please feel free to drop us the questions, and we'll get back to you. There are a few more questions left, which we will get back to you in person. Once again, I would like to thank all the participants for joining the webinar. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.